The various Marvel heroes are now some of the most iconic characters in modern cinema and the focus point of some of the most popular movies ever made. While some of these heroes grow and change after every adventure, some become more rooted in their beliefs and philosophies instead. After all, an extremely well-defined character can be just as entertaining to watch as one that evolves over the extraordinary events of any given Marvel movie. However, after more than a decade of contributing to the media juggernaut that is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's pretty clear that the Incredible Hulk is about to have a major character shift. Join us as we smash through another theory. To be honest, this is pretty surprising though, considering the Hulk's unusual history in the MCU. 2008's Incredible Hulk is one of the weaker entries in the long-running franchise, and Bruce Banner is one of the few major characters in the MCU to be recast. Following Mark Ruffalo replacing Ed Norton as the actor behind the Hulk's alter ego, the character mostly just appears in a supporting role in various films. However, it seems like that might be changing soon, and big things might be in store for the hero in the upcoming Avengers Endgame. After all, the Hulk seemed pretty out of character in Avengers Infinity War, and he is due for a bit more screen time. Based on his character's growth in previous Marvel movies and how the character has grown in other stories, the Hulk will almost certainly undergo some major character development in Avengers Endgame. It'll also be fascinating to see what kind of form that change takes and how it'll affect future Marvel films. One thing's for sure though, the Hulk will not be the same character we once knew by the end of Avengers Endgame. Dr. Bruce Banner and the Hulk have had some pretty sporadic character development over the course of the MCU, but this is at least partially due to their Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde style relationship. Although both Banner and the Hulk are good guys, so maybe we should stop using that comparison? Regardless, the nature of the two characters sharing a body means that only one of the characters can get a decent amount of character growth in any given film. In both The Incredible Hulk and the first Avengers film, Bruce Banner confronts and eventually learns to cope with the Hulk living within him. While it's still a befuddling event, Bruce Banner revealing that he can control his Hulk transformation is still one of the greatest moments in all of the MCU. Following this development, Bruce Banner and the Hulk played a less critical role in most Marvel crossover films. In Avengers Age of Ultron, the Hulk stole an airship and flew off into space, which is why the two were totally absent from Captain America's Civil War. However, in exchange for more limited appearances, Marvel films began focusing more on the Hulk's character development rather than treating him as a monstrous force barely contained within Bruce Banner. In Thor Ragnarok, we learn that the Hulk was the dominant personality for the entirety of the time they spent in space. Even if he was bumming around as a gladiator for most of the time, it still establishes that he is a separate personality from Bruce Banner with his own desires and needs. The Hulk's growth as a character really started kicking off in Avengers Age of Ultron. In this film, Bruce Banner and the Hulk are manipulated by Scarlet Witch. And as a result, the Hulk ends up going berserk in the middle of a city. Tony Stark has to bust out the Hulkbuster suit to keep the Green Giant's rampage in check, and the ensuing fight ends up destroying numerous buildings and endangering countless human lives. This battle makes the Hulk realize how much of a threat he is to innocent people, and how much they fear and hate him. Now, having a stronger sense of self and public perception than ever before, the Hulk flees Earth on a stolen airship and travels blindly through space until he ended up on the planet Sakaar, and began fighting for the entertainment of Jeff Goldblum's Grandmaster. The Hulk thoroughly enjoyed his time as a gladiator, as it allowed him to engage in his favorite pastime, smashing everything and anything, people and things, while earning the admiration and revere of the people of Sakaar. However, the Hulk is eventually pulled away from this life when Thor arrives, accidentally causing the Hulk to transform back into Bruce Banner, and then convinces Banner to leave the planet with him. The Hulk then helps Thor battle the goddess of death, Hela, on Asgard, and is next seen confronting Thanos at the beginning of Avengers Infinity War. Surprisingly, Hulk loses to the Mad Titan and is unable to stop him from collecting the Space Stone that Loki secretly held. It's pretty amazing the Hulk fell into that kind of funk after Thanos beat him, and didn't play too big of a role in the movie. Although those intentionally misleading trailers had audiences thinking otherwise going into the film. The Hulk refuses to surface when Banner tries to will him out at critical moments in later parts of the film, and uncharacteristically admits to being afraid. Even with Banner's life in danger, the Hulk doesn't surface in the rest of Infinity War. By the end of the film, it's clear that the Hulk is dealing with some kind of emotional issue, and it's all but guaranteed that the strongest Avenger will confront this problem before the end of the next film. The fact that the Hulk is getting significant character growth and development in the MCU is already incredible. The Hulk was originally a means for Banner to grow as a character and acted more as an obstacle he had to overcome and then utilize to protect those close to him. He was originally more of a burden than a full-blown character, but by the end of Avengers Endgame, he may very well be one of the most sympathetic characters in the entire franchise. What form will this character shift take, though? Well, his many comic book exploits can give us a bit of a hint as how the character will change as the MCU goes on. First appearing in the first issue of the Incredible Hulk comic in 1962, there are a lot of interpretations of this character across several mediums that can give us an idea of the future of the character in the MCU. The Hulk is usually depicted as a manifestation of Bruce Banner's repressed emotions and feelings toward violence. Having suffered extensive physical and emotional abuse from his father during his childhood, the Hulk acts as a means for Banner to unleash his long-held anger and animosity in most comic book depictions of the character. These elements heavily color the Hulk's personality and how he interacts with the world when he's able. It's totally a real thing that has kind of fallen out of fashion as time has gone on, acts as a sort of middle ground between Bruce Banner and the Green Hulks that's more of a savage, destructive force. This version of the Hulk is still incredibly strong, but retains a decent amount of Banner's intellect. This version of the Hulk acts as a way for Banner to perform his more morally questionable actions that he cannot personally bring himself to do. The Grey Hulk has a rather defined personality and is much moodier and expressive than Bruce Banner allows him to be. This version of the Hulk can even pass as human and form unique relationships with people who don't also know Banner. The Grey Hulk does still speak in third person and generally views Banner as a weaker version of himself, but is a lot closer to an angsty teenager struggling with his emotions and a place in the world than the pure destructive force that is later incarnations of the Green Hulk. The theme of the Hulk representing Bruce Banner's repressed feelings and traumas is pretty consistent with every iteration of the character. However, most versions don't separate and distinguish their personalities as heavily as the MCU's interpretations of the characters. In most storylines, Banner has to gain control over the savage green giant as a metaphor for confronting and learning to harness his repressed emotions. This usually leads to Banner having access to a kind of merged transformation that grants him a great deal of the Hulk's strength while also retaining his vast intellect and sense of reason. When the Hulk is the focus of a narrative rather than Bruce Banner, he is shown to naturally gravitate to leadership roles and hold a sense of honor to his allies. During the events of Planet Hulk, which loosely influenced the events of the Thor Ragnarok film, Hulk is exiled to space after he accidentally destroys large parts of Las Vegas. After crash landing on Sakaar and becoming a gladiator, he aligns with rebels on the planet and leads a campaign to take down the evil Red King who rules over the planet. After the success of this rebellion, Hulk becomes the new king and starts a family. An incredibly jacked, happy family. As the ship that brought Hulk to Sakaar is erected as a monument, the ship explodes and obliterates Hulk's new home and most of his loved ones. This makes the mean green fighting machine even angrier than usual and commits to defeating the heroes that exiled him as a form of revenge. This begins the World War Hulk storyline, which further cements Hulk's identity and his unique identity apart from Bruce Banner. This storyline shows that Hulk is capable of complex emotions and relationships that are fully independent of his alter ego. The Hulk might be quite a bit more brash and impulsive than any of his fellow Avengers, but it's clear that most modern interpretations of the character treat him as his own person rather than a monster. While his personality is still heavily tied to and influenced by Bruce Banner's own circumstances, the Hulk is no longer just a means to explore Banner's character. Based on the events surrounding the Hulk in previous Marvel films, it seems like the MCU version of the Hulk is also rapidly developing into his own person. It seems increasingly likely that the Hulk will have to confront his own nature as an incredibly destructive and dangerous force in Avengers Endgame, and that his clashes with Thanos, an equally hazardous entity, inspired the bulk of this introspection. Without the Hulk, the Avengers don't stand much of a chance against an Infinity Gauntlet welding Thanos. And for the Hulk to help them out, he'll need to confront exactly who and what he is. With details on Avengers Endgame still tightly under wraps, it's not yet clear what form this character growth will take for the Hulk. Maybe the Hulk and Bruce Banner will finally have an extended conversation where each learns more about themselves and each other by discussing their unique relationship. Or it's possible that Bruce Banner and the Hulk will finally talk to Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow about their long-standing feelings for her, and the conversation will give Hulk the clarity and peace of mind he desperately needs. A more humanized and fleshed-out Hulk does guarantee that big changes are in store for the character and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. After all, the Hulk can't just undergo more growth than any other character in the series and then get relegated to the sidelines again. This means we're likely to get a film centering on the Hulk sometime shortly after Avengers Endgame. 2008's The Incredible Hulk is the only Phase 1 MCU film that has yet to have a sequel, and there are plenty of escapades the Hulk could get into following the restoration of the universe. Especially after such an extended absence, it would make sense to have a classic character kick off the next stage of the MCU. Perhaps the upcoming film of the Hulk could finally face off against some of his amazing enemies, like Leader, who's basically the Hulk except super smart instead of strong. It might also be fun to see the Red Hulk finally appear in the MCU, and have the franchise make a joke out of the common criticism that a lot of villains in the series are just evil versions of the good guys. Or maybe the Hulk and Banner begin playing a more active role in the events of crossover films. In most of these movies, the Hulk is treated like a kind of trump card, whose power is literally compared to that of an entire army's in the first Avengers film. While this does mean the Hulk is an incredible on-screen presence, it also means that he can't appear in a film with smaller threats, as seen when he was entirely absent from Captain America: The Winter Soldier, even though he could have made quick work of Hydra's forces. Now that the Hulk's temperament is starting to even out a bit, maybe he'll be able to contribute to movies as more than a means to beat up the strongest villains. Perhaps the Hulk's newfound identity can even be used as a means to introduce more powerful villains into the MCU. While Thanos is the strongest baddie in the MCU thus far, there are other characters like Galactus and MODOK that pose an equally apocalyptic threat. Now that the Hulk is able to control his temper to a better extent, he could better fight these villains instead of attacking them in a blind rage. While the MCU can go in pretty much any direction after Avengers Endgame, it will almost certainly involve a new and improved version of the Hulk. This character has already evolved a great deal since his introduction, and recent films are setting up even more growth. Not to mention that the comic book version of the character regularly appears with his own distinct identity that isn't just a means to explore Bruce Banner's character. How exactly the Hulk changes and the specific impact it has on the MCU going forward is still hard to say. However, it is abundantly clear that the Hulk will not be the same character we once knew by the end of Avengers Endgame, and that he and Bruce Banner will play more of a role in the franchise than ever before. Big things are going to happen in Avengers Endgame, and the Hulk's final step in becoming a full-blown person rather than just a rampaging monster will be one of the most impactful of the film. What do you think, though? Are we on the right track, or do you think the Hulk will get shortchanged in the film just like he has been in so many others? Let us know in the comments down below, and while you're down there, please hit the subscribe button and the bell. Behind the Screen has lots of upcoming videos centering on the hottest movies, shows, and characters, and you're not going to want to miss a single one. Thanks for watching, and be sure to keep an eye out for more coming soon.